Now, the United States isn't a democracy. It's a collection of corporate dictatorships masquerading as free enterprise. You want to know where democracy actually ends? At the entrance of your job. The second you clock in, you've entered authoritarian territory. No election, no representation, just top-down command and zero accountability. Most Americans spend the majority of their lives inside these authoritarian zones. Your workplace operates under absolute rule. Nobody votes on company direction. Nobody elects management. Capital doesn't tolerate democratic governments because capital is inherently authoritarian. And here's the critical part. It doesn't contain itself. It metastasizes outward, consuming public institutions and converting them into extensions of private tyranny. Corporations spent decades building immunity from democratic oversight. They constructed fortress walls around themselves, declared their operation beyond public accountability, and accumulated power without limit. That power did exactly what concentrated power always does. It devoured the government. The US government now operates as a subordinate entity to corporate empires. This is the definition of a state capture. Congress functions as a call center fielding requests from Fortune 500 clients. The presidency serves as a promotional vehicle for capital interest. The Supreme Court arbitrates disputes between competing financial power. The state no longer enforces laws on behalf of citizens. It brokers state violence and sells it to the highest bidder. For decades, the military-industrial complex refined its methods overseas. Now those methods are being deployed domestically. The violence that was export only is now import ready. ICE is the blueprint of how governance operates when the state has been fully absorbed by corporate interest. This isn't another case of privatization run amok. This is the foundational model of the 21st century power. The formula is straightforward. Designate a population as threatening, immigrant, dissident, protester. Convert their repression into a commodity. Contract out the enforcement agencies. Eliminate any transparency mechanism. And wrap the entire operation in a national security rhetoric. Then, at the end, you channel all the profit to investors. ICE is what happens when public governance dies and corporate dominion takes its place. This is the architecture of what comes next. The terminology matters because language is a weapon of obfuscation. Three categories exist. First, authorized immigrants holding visa without citizenship pathways. Temporary workers, students, visitors who are allowed to be here but we will never belong here. Second, authorized immigrants with potential pathway to citizenship, family connection, employer sponsorship, refugees. And third, unauthorized immigrants, a government designation that lumps together people who crossed illegally, people exercising their legal right to seek asylum since 1980, and people pre-authorized for entry due to humanitarian emergencies in places like Haiti or Ukraine. In 2022, the federal machinery issued just over 2 million non-immigrant visas, no citizenship track, temporary presence only, agriculture, labor, H-1B, tech workers, foreign students, accompanying family members. That same year, approximately 500,000 immigrant visas were distributed with citizenship option attached, primarily to people with citizens, relatives, or those sponsored through employment or the global lottery. The unauthorized population includes multiple subgroups: people who entered without detection, people who presented themselves requesting asylum, people fleeing crisis zones, and people who remained after their temporary authorization expired. The Department of Homeland Security calculates the total unauthorized population residing in the US at approximately 11 million as of 2022, their most recent published figure. DHS estimated 800,000 visa overstays occurred in 2022. ICE does not function as law enforcement. Strip away the propaganda and here's what remains: a mercenary operation contracting its services to private corporations that profit from human capture. They operate as raiders. Their methodology mirrors piracy. ICE conduct invasion into communities and extract people. Community protection is not part of their function. ICE is the Gestapo of a police state that has been privatized and commodified. You know, the immigration enforcement is just a front. Behind it sits the private prison industry pulling the levers. Every core function ICE claims to perform, transportation, detention, surveillance, is executed by private contractor, mainly GEO Group, CoreCivic, and BI Incorporated. Add private charter airlines and fintech companies providing electronic monitoring, and you have the complete picture. These entities are the actual operational structure. ICE is a hollow shell providing legal cover. GEO Group and CoreCivic extract billions from human caging, billions from trauma, and billions from engineered misery. This is a commercial operation, not a policy change. Each detention generates revenue. Each deportation delivers return to shareholders. ICE leadership has stated explicitly their ambition to operate deportation with Amazon Prime efficiency. The system operates by channeling immigrants into for-profit incarceration facilities and expelling them via corporate charter airlines. The process treats human beings as inventory units moving through a supply chain. ICE has moved 311,000 migrants into supervisory detention in 2023. On any given day, ICE holds on average 34,000 people in detention. ICE detention centers function as human warehousing facilities. These are the distribution centers of the captured person economy. Immigration law has been restructured as profit generation mechanism. Every action taken under legal authorities, arrest, detention, removal, now function as a billable transaction. The state has been retrofitted to serve the financial interests that profit from mass incarceration, deportation logistics, surveillance infrastructure, and the systematic disposal of human beings. Law no longer restrains power. Law delivers customers to corporate providers. Policy originates in investment portfolios. Private prison companies' stock prices surges immediately after anti-immigration executive action and or expanded deportation mandate. GEO Group and CoreCivic hold investor briefing where they openly celebrate policy change that drives detention and deportation numbers upward. Financial capital determines when and how state coercion is deployed. The profit formula is brutally simple. Increased suffering equals increased profit. Facilities operate over capacities. Medical care is delayed or denied. Translation services are withheld. Detention periods extend indefinitely. Each of these conditions improve the corporate bottom line. GEO Group receive payment calculated per person per day, which is approximately $165 per person, Releasing detainees reduce revenue. Respecting human rights create financial inefficiencies. The business model directly incentivizes human rights violation. Deregulation means the state formally authorized its own irrelevance to protect business interests. The Trump administration dismantled DHS oversight mechanism that investigated abuse within ICE custody. The reason is transparent. Oversight interfered with profit extraction. In the American system, the state possesses no legitimate authority to impede corporate profit. 2.5 million immigration court cases sat in backlog at the close of 2023. Immigration law mandates hearings for anyone requesting asylum at entry point or after apprehension, a requirement established by the 1967 United Nations Protocol and codified in the 1980 Refugee Act. In 2022, approximately 500,000 people filed asylum application. In 2023, court issued decision on approximately 200,000 asylum cases, granting asylum in 32 100,000 instances. Migrants awaiting court hearing can remain in legal limbo for years. What defines this charade is the systematic destruction of due process and the criminalization of entire population. The US government is deploying wartime statutes from 1798 to conduct deportation without hearings. The state excavates archaic emergency powers because its modern legal authorities has collapsed. These construct the legal infrastructure of authoritarian governments, creating exclusion categories based on gang affiliation, documentation status, or registration failure. Immigrant targeting is the prototype. The objective is normalization of profit extraction through population control. Revenue expansion requires new target demographic. Non-citizens today, citizens tomorrow. Racial minorities, economic underclasses, unhoused population, protest movements. The infrastructure is operational now. Comprehensive data surveillance, AI-directed enforcement rate, indefinite detention. This infrastructure will not confine itself to immigration population. Once the system achieves normalization, the mechanisms transfer freely. Detention without due process, indefinite incarceration without trial, deportation without appeal. These tools will be applied to journalists, to labor organizers, to political opposition. The United States operates in violation of international law. Specific violations include deporting asylum seekers without mandated hearings, transferring people in third countries lacking jurisdiction over them, holding civil detainees in solitary confinement for extended period. The United Nations reports have classified ICE detention facilities as torture sites characterized by inhuman treatment. The forced medical procedures performed on female detainees constitute criminal acts of barbarism. The international communities increasingly recognize the US as a rogue state that applies international law selectively when convenient and discards it when inconvenient. ICE detention facilities represent the domestic deployment of Guantanamo-style indefinite detention and torture. This isn't a system failure, this is the system function. This is the business of human inventory operating exactly as designed.